Hello, everybody. My name is Noah Taff, and today, or I guess technically yesterday, as you're saying this, I went to the theaters to see Joker, and I absolutely loved it. Now, before we get into what happened with the plot, this, by the way, is going to be I should have put this in a title, so I don't really need to explain this, but this is a full spoiler review. I'm going to be going over what happened in the plot in full detail to the best of my ability and remembrance. I'm going to try to do most of this off memory, but I have a plot as written on Wikipedia for reference, just in case I forget some stuff. I want to get this part out of the way at the beginning here, because this film seems like it's been the victim of a smear campaign, mainly from CNN. CNN seems like they have a raging hard-on for trying to destroy this movie, and I have no idea why. The smear campaign included things like it's going to, incite incel violence, and it's gonna inspire real life violence. CNN's basically trying to clickbait a mass shooting, and it's gonna, even the Aurora movie theater where the Dark Knight Rises shooting happened in 2012 caved and refused to show the film because they're scared. And after watching it, it made me realize, all these people inciting the smear campaign didn't actually see the film because if you actually watch the film, it's not a film about inciting violence. It's a film about mental illness and how the main character struggles and suffers a downward spiral into villainy and murder through mental illness. It's a pretty fucked up film, but it's also tremendous. And here is how it went down. So the movie starts in the year 1981 and is centered around Arthur Fleck, who is a party clown. He gets jumped by some unruly kids at the beginning and beat down. Arthur has a lot of problems. He's very poor. He lives with his mother, who he has to take care of, and he has a strong amount of mental illnesses and gets a strong amount of medication from, I don't know if she's just a social worker or therapist or both. She's not very good at it, because she doesn't really listen to him and all that, and he writes his thoughts down in a journal. So after he gets attacked, his co-worker named Randall loans him a gun for protection. Also next to him is a single mother named Sophie. They sit next to her, and after an interaction in the elevator, they seemingly, there we go, start dating. Keyword is seemingly, but stick with me here, you'll get it in a second. Also, him and Sophie start dating, I guess dating, or start becoming friends or whatever, after, it says dating on the Wikipedia page, I'm not sure if that's correct, but after he follows her all day, and then she comes and knocks on his door, and is just cool with it, and he invites her to his stand-up routine, and she's like, okay. And if that doesn't make much sense, again, stick with me, it'll make sense in a second. So, as Arthur's preparing for his stand-up routine, looking for more ways to make money, he's already on the fritz on his job because they've gotten complaints about him, and they're looking for an excuse to fire him, and they get that excuse because he's performing at a children's hospital, and the gun that Randall gave him falls out of his pants, and then on a phone call with his boss, he gets fired after Randall doesn't cover for him, and throws him under the bus, basically. From buses to trains, he's riding the train home, still in the full clown getup and everything. And it's also worth noting something I left out. Arthur, one of the mental conditions he has is he has a condition that causes him to laugh uncontrollably at inappropriate times. So there's 3 businessmen on the train with him and a woman in the car during the 5 people, and they just begin harassing the lady because they're drunk or whatever. And Arthur starts laughing, just uncontrollably. He tries to reach for a card he has to show them that he has a condition, but before he can, they just beat him up and stomp him out. Arthur, however, finally snaps and shoots one of them in the head, shoots another one in the head. He shoots another one in the back of the leg, and then chases him out of the train and eventually kills him on the steps of the subway station. Afterwards, he runs into a bathroom, locks himself in there, and when he looked like he's going to have a mental breakdown, instead he begins dancing, and that's its way of telling you that he has finally snapped mentally. So Arthur's mother, whose name is Penny, I believe, has been writing letters to Thomas Wayne, father of Bruce. I'm sure you know who that is. And her reason is not really known. The reason she gives is that she was a former employee of Wayne, and apparently Wayne said he always helps out his former employees and all that because they're like a family. It's implied that she has some mental issues as well. Again, we'll get to that later. So Thomas Wayne on the news condemns the attacks of murderers on the three young men as they were Wayne Enterprises employees. In all his brilliance, he also calls the people responsible for the attacks as well as the people who were supporting the persons responsible for the attacks, basically the lower class, clowns. That backfires a lot as a bunch of copycat, I shouldn't say killers, but copycat, but just copycats, I guess, start dressing up in clown masks and committing crimes, and also they start protesting him with clown masks on. Meanwhile, things get worse for the real clown, Arthur, as I can't say that, social service, there we go, just don't say it fast, just say it slow, social service program shuts down, and now he is without medication. So Arthur finally has his comedy show. It doesn't go well. And he keeps laughing uncontrollably for the whole thing, although he does get some laughs, maybe somewhat ironic laughs near the end, and Sophie, his girlfriend, I guess, shows up. Then later at home, his mom is writing a new letter to Thomas Wayne. He decides to open this one, and in the letter, according to his mother at least, Thomas Wayne is his real father. He gets furious at his mother, learning this, and then plots to go to Wayne Manor, which he does, and meets the future Batman, Bruce Wayne, at the manor, and shows him some magic tricks until he's confronted by Alfred Pennyworth and asked to see Thomas Wayne. Alfred's like, nah, son, and then he tries to choke Alfred for the gate before running away. Things get worse when he goes home, because when he goes home, turns out his mother had a stroke, and she is now in the hospital. While he is in the hospital tending to her, Sophie is there, magically. Don't know how she got there, but again, we're close. We'll get to that. Sophie is there, and as she leaves to go get them both some coffee, he turns the TV on because their favorite TV show is on. Their favorite TV show, because I just had to make a cut here because I forgot the name, is the Murray Franklin Show. Murray Franklin, played by Robert De Niro, by the way, which he always watches with his mother. And near the end of the show, they show Arthur's stand-up comedy clips, which went poorly. And Arthur does not seem to have a positive reaction to that, because they were basically mocking him on the show. So now things start to go further down a rabbit hole. Arthur plots to get a conversation with Thomas Wayne. He sneaks into a theater where Wayne is seeing a film, and he, disguising himself as like a bellboy or whatever, and goes and meets Wayne in the bathroom. Wayne recognizes him, or remembers him. I guess he's heard about him as a guy who tried to break into his house. Arthur tries to get Wayne to admit that he's his real father, but Wayne tells Thomas that his mother is mentally ill, and that's why she was fired, and also that that Arthur is adopted, and then punches Arthur for touching his son. Arthur, needing confirmation of this, goes to a mental hospital, where I guess Penny was admitted 30 years earlier. They can't release the records to him, but he steals them. And then from the records, he learns that not only was he indeed adopted, but his mother let her old boyfriend abuse both of them. And I guess because of trauma, he had blocked that all out. So Arthur's, I'm guessing, schizophrenia starts to come through, and his illusions start to dissolve in one way or another. He finds out his mother is not really his real mother, so he goes to the hospital and starts berating her. She had a stroke, so she can't really talk, although she is conscious, and I believe at one point she says, "I love you," or something. I couldn't tell. She was trying to talk in stroke voice. And then Arthur says the line from the commercial that made so famous. I always thought my life was a tragedy, but turns out it's a comedy, although he said fucking comedy, so it wasn't even the real. So it turns out that wasn't in the commercial. The word fucking wasn't in the commercial, but and then he kills her. He suffocates her with a pillow. And then he goes home, but instead it goes into Sophie's apartment and sits on the couch. And Sophie comes out frightened and doesn't even recognize him. Well, she kind of does. She's like, "Oh, you're the guy from downstairs." And that's when you slowly realize, and they pretty much just confirm it with flashbacks, that they spell it out for you, because they show scenes of like Arthur and Sophie, but then Sophie disappears within the scenes. Turns out Sophie and him never had a relationship. It was all in his mind. So now, free from his fake mother and his fake girlfriend, things start to look up for Arthur. He gets a phone call, and I guess his clips from the, I forgot the name again, the Murray Franklin show, have gotten unexpected popularity, so he gets invited to go on the show, and he will. He decides to dye his hair green and don a clown makeup for the appearance, and while he's practicing on it in his home, this part is interesting, and I didn't really notice it at the time, but when I saw something about it on Twitter, it made me realize. So, he looked at a photograph with his mom, and I think on the back it was signed from Thomas Wayne or something. Now that could mean one of two things. Either A, his mother, because she was delusional, just signed it herself, or B, she was telling the truth. I feel like she signed it herself, to be honest. I don't think she was telling the truth. I don't think he's really Thomas Wayne's son. So I'm gonna go she signed it herself. But who knows? That's an interesting plot point right there, because we don't actually know what the truth is now. Arthur's then interrupted by some familiar friends, Randall, and also, what's his name? Gary. Gary is a little person. Also, I gotta say, I know little person is the term to use right now, or term to use now, I guess, because the word midget is demeaning. But isn't the word little person, like, even more demeaning when you really think about it? Like, that's kind of demeaning too, you know? Just saying. I'm sorry to go off a weird place here, but it's weird. So obviously, Gary was the only one, though, who ever treated him well, and Randall, of course, is the one who fucked him out of his job. Arthur had put some scissors in his back pocket. They had heard about his mother's death, so they brought him a bottle of wine. And in what is, in no doubt, the most brutal scene in the movie, Arthur takes the scissors, stabs Randall in the head and neck multiple times, and just murders the ever-living fuck out of him. He's big dead. Wow, Gary cowers in the corner in fear. Arthur then tells Gary to go, but Arthur put the lock on the door, like the slide lock, and Gary can't reach it, so Arthur has to go over to let him out. But he tells Gary he's the only one who's ever nice to him, and lets him leave. Some people may not like that, because they're like, oh, the Joker showed mercy. But I see it more as it was the final piece of his old life, which he was hanging on to, and that's pretty much it, because it's not like he's going to see Gary again. If he does, Gary probably won't get lucky the second time. Anyway, Arthur's getting ready for his big show appearance, and we finally get the scene that was plastered all over the trailers of him dancing on the stairs. However, as he's doing his little dance party up at the top of the stairs, the two detectives who've been following him before, questioning him about the subway murders, I don't think I mentioned that. They originally confronted him outside the hospital, and they've been keeping an eye on him and calling him and all that. They ask for a word with him. He runs. They chase him. He runs into a subway station, into a subway train, where luckily there's a bunch of other clowns, because the clown protesters can have a big old protest thing. He incites a riot within the train, and in the riot, one of the cops accidentally kills one of the protesters, and then they just get the shit kicked out of him while Arthur gets away and gets to go to his big show appearance. So backstage, he finally gets to meet Murray and asks Murray to introduce him as Joker, because as a reference to what Murray called him earlier, a Joker. So he gets his big appearance. He comes out. He's introduced as Joker. He's wearing the clown makeup and the face paint and the hair dyed green, but he says it's not a political statement. He gets a warm reception at first, and things look like they're going well, but then he starts telling some morbid jokes, and then admits to killing the guys on the subway, and he goes on a big rant against Murray and everyone for not caring about the homeless and the disenfranchised and those with mental illness, and finally, and also blames Murray somewhat for his problems because Murray mocked him, and then takes out a gun and shoots Murray in the head on live television. He goes with the camera and is telling him good night, but then he gets cut off. But right after they like show multiple screens, and in one of the pictures, if you look closely, you can see he's immediately tackled by security after. So he gets arrested, and as he's in the cop car looking outside, everyone's rioting, going crazy. The city's being destroyed. The cop car then gets crashed into by an ambulance driven by rioters, which I'm guessing killed the two cops inside. They pull Arthur out and put him on the hood, and eventually he wakes up and poses on the hood for all of his adoring followers. But then it crash cuts to Arthur in a mental hospital with a therapist. And I guess it's up to interpretation whether the scene was real of him on top of the cop car. I don't think it was, personally. I feel like the collision didn't actually happen and all that. The ambulance collision and all that didn't actually happen, because then how would have he gotten locked up in a mental hospital anyway? You know? So I feel like that part was in his head, and he just needed, his adulation and all that. Needed to believe that was real. So he starts laughing uncontrollably because that's his thing. It's his condition. And with the therapist asks him what's funny. And he said she wouldn't get it. Then it cuts to Arthur leaving the room with bloody footprints. Again, not sure if that's real either. For disappearing down a hallway before being chased up and down the hallway by some, what's the word they use? Orderlies, I guess. And that is the end of the film. And even though Marvel's made this a thing where, because they did the end credit scenes, now everyone expects everything to have end credit scene. No end credit scene for this one. DC not doing that shit. So no end credit scene for this. And that was Joker. And I thought it was tremendous. Again, it was not a fucking movie about incel violence or whatever the fuck, or inciting riots. To be honest, there was only 3 really brutal scenes in the movie, and I would only classify one of them as incredibly brutal, and that's the scissor scene. Maybe it's because I'm American and I'm fucking desensitized to gun violence, but the scene where he stabbed Randall with the scissors is the only scene I would classify as incredibly brutal, So it really wasn't that brutal, if I'm being honest. It also wasn't that long. It was only about 2 hours, which I guess doesn't feel that long because some of the movies I've seen fucking recently were long as shit. Like, hell, when was the last movie I saw in theaters? Might have been Endgame, and Endgame was like 3 hours. I loved it, but it was long. But this movie was tremendous. Here's the thing, DC doesn't have hits as often as Marvel does, but when they have hits, they have hits. I'll tell you what, I don't know if this is connected to the DCEU or if it's going to be in any way connected to the upcoming Batman film starring Robert Pattinson in 2021, which I believe is going to be called The Batman. I also forgot to mention, near the end when a riot was going on, they replayed the sequence Thomas Wayne and Martha Wayne were shot, and Bruce is left an orphan. So setting up for the Batman stuff. So, but where does this go somewhere? Are we ever going to see Joaquin Phoenix's Joker again? Todd Phillips said he potentially left it ambiguous as to whether Arthur becomes the actual Joker, seen in the traditional Batman stories, or inspires a separate character. I think that's bullshit, but that's what he said. So I'm interested to see where this goes. I will say, though, absolutely tremendous performance by Phoenix. It was exactly the performance the character needed after Leto's performance. And to be honest, Jared Leto's a good actor. If you've never seen anything else from Jared Leto, I would look up some of his other stuff, like Requiem for a Dream was tremendous. He's a good actor. I blame more of the direction he was given in that movie, and for some reason they made him look like he shops at Hot Topic. I more blame the direction he was given in that movie than Leto himself. But this lived up to the memory and the performance given by Heath Ledger. Was it better? I don't know if I can say that. Heath Ledger's Joker might be my favorite performance in any movie ever. Dark Knight might be my favorite movie of all time. But this was arguably on par. It really was. You could argue that, like, oh, well, you can't really compare because Ledger had a PG-13 movie and what's his name? I almost call him Keanu Reeves for some reason. Joaquin Phoenix has an R-rated movie. I think people forget how close The Dark Knight was to being rated R. If you watch The Dark Knight back, and you should, it's tremendous. If you happen to watch it back, you'll notice that there's no blood in that entire movie. Because my understanding is the original cut had blood, but they had to cut it out because it would have been rated R if they had left the blood in. So that movie was teetering on the edge of R, to be fair. They had to take all the blood out of that movie to make it not R. But this was a tremendous movie that had a smear campaign ran against it by the media for reasons I have no idea why. And it's tremendous. It's not even, if you don't like superhero movies, man, it's not even a superhero movie. Like, there's very little connections to DCEU, if it's even in the DCEU. It might not be, other than, Bruce and Thomas Wayne, But it's not like you need to know the Batman backstory to understand this. It helps understand, some of the stuff, but it's not like it's necessary, So it's just true. I thought it was tremendous. I thought it was the best DC movie I've seen in a long time. I thought Wonder Woman was really good. I didn't see Aquaman. I heard mixed things, but mostly good things about Aquaman. I didn't see that. I really liked Wonder Woman, though. I think that might have been the last DC movie I saw. I thought Batman vs. Superman was atrocious, and I hated Justice League as well. And Suicide Squad was, Suicide Squad, actually, I loved the actors' performances in that movie. Just the whole writing and direction of that movie was terrible. So here's hoping the remake is good. But overall, tremendous film. Again, I would not classify it as a superhero film. It's a horror film, if anything. Phoenix did a tremendous job. I don't know if he's ever won an Oscar before, but he should win one for this, because he did absolutely tremendously well, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is my review of Joker. More movie reviews coming in the future. I know I promised the Iron Man and Godzilla things a couple months ago and haven't delivered. I am, believe it or not, still working on that. I haven't canceled that, since I've got a lot on my plate, and sometimes this channel, unfortunately, because it's my second channel, because it, has 218 subs compared to my main channel that's 10,000 subs, or my Twitch channel that I have, 30 viewers a day on. Well, no, I'm over so 20 viewers a day on. This channel takes a backseat, but I still want to get that stuff done, definitely. And we will be doing more movie reviews in the future, as well as more wrestling reviews. But that is it for my review of Joker. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I enjoyed this film. I would recommend seeing it. Thank you guys for watching. If you liked it, be sure to like it. Ooh, excuse me. If you didn't like it, don't. If you want to follow any of my social media links, they are all in the description. Thank you to all 20 of my patrons as well, currently named in the description, for your constant support of me and my channels. Excuse me. I didn't burp throughout this whole fucking review, but now that I'm trying to talk fast, now all of a sudden it's coming out. Thank you to all 20 of my patrons for your constant support of me and my channels. I appreciate you guys and your support. It means a lot to me. Thank you. And with all that being said, my name is Noah Taff. This has been my review of Joker. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.